All right, when I start doing this countdown, we're gonna be rolling, bro.
Okay, not a
And
problem.
we're rolling now. And then
Awesome.
I know, right? Let me see if it gives it to me. All right, everybody, how you doing? It's your brother from another brother, Maze. That's right, I'm back. You know, I'm a little later than possible, or a little later than most. But hey, man, listen. You know, they say where there's a will, there's a way. I said I was going to interview this young man a couple weeks ago, and we had some difficulties. That's right, some difficulties. But we had a couple of difficulties that put us in a position where we could at least get back on track and be with you tonight. Okay. And when I say be with you tonight, I'm talking about giving you the status of the Black community. But I got the one and only, the brother from another, my brother from another, Lionel Lightbourne in the house. See, he was already getting ready for bed, man. Look at him. Go ahead and tell all the fans, man. Just tell all fans, man, just what's up, who you are. And I'm going to give a slight rundown as soon as you finish with that.
Okay, yeah, well, my name is Lionel Lightbourne. I'm a product of Miami's Liberty City community, and I've been in the social work field in the nonprofit area for about 24 years. So I mean, I got to work in different sectors, whether it be nonprofit, substance abuse, recovery, what they call it, the prison system, which is the DOC, which is the Department of Corrections. So right. I have a plethora of knowledge when it comes to different things in the social work arena. And I usually leverage that knowledge in these type of conversations. So I'm able to pull from different experiences and exposures to give a more sound explanation on different crises and events that we're experiencing right now.
Well, I tell you what, guys, if you heard that he's being a little modest, I'm gonna give you a little heads up of what this young man is really all about. I'm so proud of him, man, because I look up to him when it comes down to it. But let me just give you a little rundown real quick of who Lionel Lightbourne is. He was saving some stuff for you, but he was trying to put some stuff aside, I should say, but it's all good. So Lionel Lightbourne, one of the most interesting people I have ever met. Allow me to go ahead and say this.
Okay.
Is a product of Miami's Liberty City, like he said, and of course he finds joy in being a husband, a father, a grandfather to his family. He has over 20 years of experience, like he said, a professional work experience in the social service field, non-for-profit arena, and presently serves as a care coordinator at Gang Alternative, a not-for-profit organization which is established to reduce and eradicate youth violence in the Miami Little Haiti community. Now, Mr. Lightbourne has been recognized as a Miami-Dade County peacemaker at the 2014 International Day of Peace, and previously served as second vice president for legal services of Greater Miami Incorporated. He is a founding father, task force member for the Broward County Healthy Mothers Healthy Babies Fatherhood Program, and a contributing member of the Fatherhood Task Force of South Florida. Now, Lionel previously served as a workshop facilitator and panelist at NBCDI's, which stands for National Black Child Development Institute, 46th and 47th annual conference. And of course, his products and perspectives were featured with notables such as Bishop Victor T. Curry of the South Florida area, New Birth Baptist Church, Dr. Michael Noble, Nobel Peace Prize, Yolanda King, MLK's eldest daughter, Dr. Phil, on his Dr. Phil Sagging Pants Show, the Jill Beach Show, Miami Dolphins Weekly with host Kim Bocamper and Sean P. Diddy Combs, host of your music video, I should say, CBMA, Campaign for Black Male Achievement, and Senator Frederica Wilson of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellent Programs, just to name a few. He has been blessed to be featured in numerous NPR and South Florida publications on an array of topics. Ladies and gentlemen, let me please reintroduce Mr. Lionel Lightbourne, my brother.
Hey, you make me sound
I've been waiting a long time, man, to introduce you like that, man. I tell you, if y'all only knew the how would I say the relationship, and I kind of want to go back to that before we go a little bit further.
Right.
Man, I got to tell the story how I met Lionel. I used to work for the Chief Jimmy Brown show. And of course, working as a production assistant then. And of course, man, let me tell you, uh, that brother right there, what he did, he used to call the show every week. And when he called the show every week, he would call and he would demand to speak to Chief. And so in the process of demanding to speak to Chief, he always had the most interesting questions. So when I would go to the other room and I would talk to Chief, I'd say, Chief, listen, first and foremost, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and get Mr. Lionel on, because Lionel has questions that is either going to cause more people to call the show, or he's going to have questions that's going to put you one-on-one to the point where you're going to be like, I don't want to talk to Lionel no more. And when I tell you, every single time I would go to Chief would say, is that Lionel? And I'll say, yep. He go, oh Lord. But at the end of the day, he had a purpose. And man, you know, you sparked some conversations on our show that I can really say made me say, okay, I know this guy right here, he's here. You know, okay. I can surely respect you because you were concerned. You was always about the community. And man, you know, this whole show has really been focused on the state of the Black community and in regards to where we are right now, where we've been, and really where we're going. And so I just kind of wanted to kind of start with that, man, and just kind of tell you, you're in South Florida right now. This is probably one of the busiest cities in all of America right now, especially is one of the hottest on the news with the COVID-19 scare. What's going on in the community that has you concerned right now?
My major concern would be poor narrative. And I think mostly poor communities are victimized more by poor narratives than the lack of resources. You got to remember those narratives are usually or a narrative is attached to your vision. And you know what the Bible says, where there's no vision, the people perish. So when you have a poor narrative, and to give a better example of a poor narrative and how it's being distributed in Black communities or even poor communities or communities of color, let's say if your child was diagnosed with cancer, your narrative for that child will be totally different than the narrative that he feed the community when the community is diagnosed with cancer. Right. See, so most of the time when the community is diagnosed with cancer, they're like, oh, you're gonna die, and pretty much there's no type of comfort or solution that's offered that's saying, you know what, we have a challenge, but we'll survive this. But if your child was diagnosed with the same crises, then you would be more compassionate and empathetic, and you're going to think of ways to say, you know what, this particular crisis may take my child, but you know what, we're going to fight and we're going to talk like it's not going to take my child. And I think that's what we suffer from, not just in Miami-Dade County, but throughout the Black communities throughout the country, because everybody's quick when it comes to Black people to come to a bad or very disparaging narrative. And I'm like, listen, if you can't afford the resources or get the resources to our communities, you could at least afford to get us a good perspective. Those are free. You understand? No,
and that is a valid statement. But let me ask you this, because when you think about and I go back to when I first stepped into Miami, was I came to visit in 1995, and I said to myself, this is a whole other world. Number one. This is a whole nother world, because I had never seen communities like Little Haiti, to Cuba, Little Havana, as we call Little Cuba down there, to the Bahamian community that was even further in the northwestern part of Miami, and to the point where everybody was so different than each other. It was the same. They was dealing with the same problems, but everybody was different in how they handled things. And so one of my biggest concerns, and I even still see today when I go back, is, you know, is the respect level. How have we overcome the respect level in regards to moving from a community to a governed community, if that makes sense.
Oh no, we can have to do some what they call some historic asset mapping. We use that a lot in my profession. Asset mapping. I think you do asset mapping in any type of business venture you in. There's
Right.
different kinds of asset mapping, but it has the same purpose. So when we have some historical asset mapping, we got to discover what did work, because you're going to find out other cultures come here and use the exact historical business plan or concept that we had that moved us from slavery to society.
Mhm.
They're using the same blueprint. So I'm like, there's no such thing as we can't do it when we have done it. So we just have to sometime assess what we did, right? And take that history and turn it into a strategy. Again, we have a rich history, but a rich history is nothing if you have a poor strategy. And that's the only thing that we're
and that's
lacking.
true. That's true. Now the businesses. Let's just go straight up. If I was going down 7th Avenue, I mean, I've seen businesses 7th Avenue from Martin Luther King all the way back up towards 173rd, to the point where I'm like, man, they've changed, but they've changed. The people have changed. You got Asians coming in. You had a little bit more owning businesses, even owning Black businesses.
Correct.
And saying that, hey, I see that this is focused on the Black people. I'm on a hair care store, or I'm gonna do a corner store, or I'm gonna go do a bank now. You have Cubans that's doing the same thing. Why are we not taking advantages of those entities, those things that could really help our community?
Because we lack something called collective bargaining. And
Okay.
with collective bargaining, that means that we barter with each other first. So we pool our resources to barter with each other first. And before what they said, what's the thing now our mom and them used to say, charity starts at home and spreads abroad.
Right.
In the Black community, it starts abroad and spreads at home. And that's what has happened.
That's true. That's true. That's true. But even with that being said, the growth of the community. I worked in the Miami Central High School is where I first taught for years, and of course I'm right off of 95th. I leave 95th, and if I want the best food for soul food, I knew it within a several block radius. I knew where to go. But when it came to institutions of financial stability, institutions of financial stability, places to where it was teaching us how to do better with our money, I didn't see that. And it kind of bothered me, because now if you look at Overtown, for instance, Overtown is kind of reestablished its identity in the latter few years. I mean, how has that changed to where now, or is it because we are putting more focus back into that area in comparison to those rural areas of the city, or what?
No, what happened with that situation is this. You had a lot of revitalization projects came up. You got to remember, just two things. It's a pro and a con to revitalization. The pro is if you own, you're going to make out good with that revitalization plan.
Right.
You can put a demand in, and they have to do business with you because you're an owner. The con is if you're not an owner, then you're going to face displacement. Now, a lot of people, and I had a friend of mine, a young man, he's up and coming. I love the way he thinks. And he said, we're not being gentrified, we're being displaced. And I was like, no, he's 100% correct. Because in order to be gentrified, you'd have to be forcefully moved out of something or move away from something that you own. And most of us were not owners. Even some of the businesses, they had long-term leases, but no ownership. And this is the reason when they came in with the revitalization plan, all the owners benefited and the renters was displaced. And so that's where you got to watch the dynamics of it. And then just because you see a black name on a building, doesn't mean it's not a white building. And so we even had sometimes, unfortunately, you had our own politicians who supposed to have our best interests, and they would sell your equity out and your access to ownership out just to have their name on the building. So they would have gave the subsidies to all the big corporations in exchange for affordable housing, as opposed to affordable home ownership. Now, guess what? Both was accessible, but the plan you put in was affordable housing, and not affordable home ownership, the difference between the two is they could bring X amount of affordable housing, which means affordable rent in there for X amount of years. But after you transition out of office, or that particular company or corporation pay off that loan,
right,
then they can renegotiate their contract on what they promised your people, because they no longer owe that county or that constituent that gave them the money in the first place, or the access in the first place. So it's a lot of collective bargaining that's happening for us, but more so against us than for us.
Someone's moving into the neighborhood and they're saying, hey, this is where I want to establish my life. This is where I want to shop. This is where I want to even start a business. What are the outlets? What are the entities that will put them in place, or the connections that says, hey, let me help you? What's been helping the community say, I want to do more for my community in that community?
Well, that's what asset mapping is. And I'm not smart. I've just been here a long time.
Right,
so
right.
I would know how to make those connections. I would know about SBA, which is the Small Business Association, who's doing it. And it depends on what level you want to start on. So do you want to start with home ownership first, or do you want to start with business ownership? So you may want to do both at the same time. So it may be a combo of different help that I may have to give you, like steps. Say, okay, start here and then work yourself here. So it's who I'm going to send you to first, who I'm going to send you to second, who I might send you to third. But I would never send you to no more than 4 people, because 4 people represents 4 strategies, and 4 strategies are like 4 seasons. You only have a year to do this. So I want to give you something reasonable, give you reasonable access so you can accomplish what you set out to accomplish. But now what I think where we fail, where we drop the ball in Black communities, because we have what they call misconnections. So when you have somebody transitioning here from an Atlanta or New York, we don't really consolidate as a people, so we can build a better commerce. If you have a group from New York, Black people, they're working in the New York silo, and then Miami, we're working in the Miami silo, and then if somebody coming from the Caribbean, they're working in the Caribbean silo. So we're missing the opportunity to become a conglomerate, and that's really what's the negative or the con with our community. But we have more possibilities than we have disparities. But we just got to see it.
We recently, not to cut you off, but there was recently a very controversial video that was done by Luke. Obviously, Luke, Q Live Crew, for those that don't know who I'm talking about.
Right.
I call him Brother Luke because that's what he like to me. But he made a comment in a video where he says, he was tired of people coming from the places claiming Miami and doing Miami without getting permission to do Miami. Did you see that video?
Yeah, I did. He was specifically talking about I guess the guy from the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that particular guy, but that guy he's not he's not Mr. Personality, that's for sure. I mean,
exactly. But let me ask you this: are there some truths to what he's saying? Because I know being there for almost 20 years, and I have heard the same thing. Many people, I
think there's a stigma with living in South Florida, and that stigma is this: you have people that come from the north, and this has always been a stigma. This has really nothing to do with South Florida and more to do with the South. So you have a stigma that where people from the north think they're more advanced than people from the South. That's the stigma. That's the common stigma. And guess what? Even if they don't express it, they still they exist in the arrogance of it. So when they come down here, they think that, we're slow down here. We don't know anything. We don't know what they know down here. Even though we're all up against the same oppression and against the same system. You think the system is going to favor you more because you're from the north, you're a Black man from the north, and I'm a Black man from the South. Well, you're going to realize people from the South have more equity because we have more ownership.
Right. And you're saying, what you're saying is so true. I personally found that to be true when I moved down there finally in '97, and to see the equity, the growth, the ownership. It really made me come back. When I did come back home, I'm originally from Missouri, for those that don't know. Came back to Missouri, and I looked and I said, well, wait a minute. We were offered the same opportunities. We same education. My grandmama was a big mama. Everybody was the same. What was being taught in the home there that wasn't being taught here? Because I do know, don't get me wrong, we have ownership, we have people who are revitalizing the community, we have all that. It seems like when I got there, it was, you could see it. You could really see it. That was the difference. And so what do you say to that for those who are listening? Because there's people from all over that's going to be listening to this show.
Okay.
How would you address that?
Again, remember I told you about the historic asset mapping. We still have, listen, everybody Black is not broke. Let's just know that.
Right.
We still have some historical wealth families in our community. You just got to know who they are. Right. We have a few complexes. When I'm talking about complex, I'm talking about apartment complexes with 50 or more units that's still owned by a Black family. But what they did, and again, you know, I think they were great and their ancestors were great for accomplishing that. Right? But where we fell short is on the negotiation. And this is where most of the time where we do fall short. Our negotiating skills, we got to step it up a little bit more. This is the reason why we need more consolidation of the minds that we have and the brilliance that we have. And I'm talking about on all levels, because we fall short at negotiation. So when they bought the complex, right, they gave a 100-year lease. You see the difference? So if you give a 100-year lease and that lease doesn't stipulate that the lease is going to increase in the cost of living, even though, because you know the cost of living is going to go up over time. But if you set that price into, you set those prices or that lease price at 1970s pricing, and now we're in 2000, you look more like the borrower, and the people who are leasing from you look more like the owner.
Exactly. So, I experienced that. I had when I first moved to South Florida, I lived actually in Naranja. Right. And Naranja had land. You know, there was some land down there. And the coach that I was living with, because I came down and coach football, the coach I was living with, Roger Coffey, said, you can go buy you a house right behind me for this price. And I looked at the price, I said, man, you're right. And I remember when I was looking for places to live, and I said, okay, affordability. I had to look at my potential salary. Teaching salary at that time obviously wasn't nothing to brag about. But at the end of the day, there was programs that would have allowed me to live in Naranja, to live in, say, Miami Gardens, which used to be Carroll City area, was a little bit different, man. And I was like, well, wait a minute, you know, I'd rather live in Carroll City. But Naranja got more land, it's a little cheaper, but the equity of my house over time, it's not going to be the same. So Blacks, I mean, I was recently there a couple months back, and when I was there, took a drive down there. As they used to call it, the Strawberry Patch, down that way. Yeah, and so went down there to the Strawberry Patch, man. You talking about development? From everything to just all the way down to Homestead and even beyond, even better. How is that allowing us as owners and as Blacks who are looking to start a single family? How is that making people in the city say, "Hey, I want a piece of that"? You know, I've lived here in the city. Now I want a piece of that. What are you seeing when you see that?
Well, I think our strategy now. This is the best part about this. With that historical, remember I told you that historical, you have to go back and do that historical asset mapping.
Right.
We're gonna have to use a very old strategy in the new circumstances.
Right.
Which is really the same old circumstances, but it's an old strategy. That old strategy is this.
Right.
We're gonna have to pull together as a co-op, right? For people who don't know what a co-op is, it's like you may bring like 3 sets of families in one house, and then they come together in one house, and then they'll build out and buy another house and another house. Unfortunately, that's what most of the foreigners who are coming over here, whether it be from Europe, South America, they're renting out now. And this is, they're very savvy. I give them that. But they're doing what we used to do. And so they're using the strategies, they're using our own strategies against us, because for affordability reasons, not saying we can't dig our way out of this. We can dig our way out of this, but we're gonna have to do something that we never wanted to do and that we should have done 20 years ago. And you know what that one thing is?
What's that?
Get a loan.
But see, hold on now. You're right. Get a loan. Obviously, I don't want a loan payment. You don't want a loan payment.
No. Not get a loan. Not get a loan. Get a loan. Unity.
Oh, get along, get along.
Yeah,
No,
come
no,
together.
you're right, you're right. But see, that's the thing. I again, I say this. I have Asian friends, I have Cuban friends, I have
Right.
across the rainbow. When I sit down and I talk to them, I say, wait a minute, now there's about 80 of y'all living in a house.
Yeah.
Okay. And then y'all running this business over here. I said, how in the world you been here 2 years, you got this business, doing this? How much did the bank really give you? And then when they tell me about these loans, these $100,000 loans they give for to start their business, this and that and everything, and then how they're doing it, it's that old system.
Correct.
You get 5 or 6 of you living in a house, maybe even more. And then as you get older, that one, everybody's putting the money towards that one to go out and do their thing. And then you next in line. But we can't do that because what you just said, we can't get along.
But we don't have no choice. And that's what I love
But
about
we don't have a choice now because
right.
if we want to compete, we have to get along. So now with that being said, brings up my other point here is now with that being said, we're now moving into this new normal.
Correct.
This new normal is if you don't get it together, then you may never have it together. So correct. We were talking offline here and we were talking about, the fact that we're going to see more people who are going to be millionaires because they're starting their business. They're starting the thing that they've been wanting to do. They've had time to do it. They've had opportunities like no other. They've been home. So they've been able to get their think tank together. They sit down, they on their computer, they doing what they have to do. How does that really help someone that looks like you and me?
Well, again, when you take, let's put it like this, economics and finances, or the knowledge thereof. So the knowledge of economics and finances is like that rain they speak about in the Bible. You remember when they say about the rain in the Bible? It falls on the just and the unjust. Well, that's the thing about knowledge and wisdom. The knowledge and wisdom of economic and finances is so basic and elementary. You got to remember, we had our ancestors who were slaves. They went from slavery to society. This is people with like no legitimate education. You understand? But they did it. You'd be surprised how just a want to do something will be your greatest wisdom. So you have to start seeing your family. And most of us, I'm like 48 years old. So my kids are like in their like early, my baby girl is 17 years old. My son, my oldest son, he's going to be 29 in 2 weeks. So I don't have a family no more. I have a company. You understand? Because all of them have at the age right now they can bring in money. So all of them have a certain level of equity that I can say, okay, we can pool together. This amount is for you. You understand? This amount goes into the pool, which means if I got a mortgage right now, a $1,700 mortgage, a $1,700 mortgage may be a struggle for 2 people.
Right.
But it's not a struggle for 5 people.
Amen.
You know, so now you can take a mortgage and you got 5 people. So now what would have been 30 years, you can cut down to 15 to 10 years.
15 years. Yes, exactly.
Correct. And because, and this is the best part about it, because our children are who they are, they just sometimes they're not slow, but they're slow to listen. You understand that?
Right. Oh,
they can make
listen.
40,000 and
we got a mirrored situation, bro. I'm 47,
right.
And I'm sitting with 4 kids. I'm sitting on a 22-year-old, 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, and of course a 10-year-old son. So I got 3 daughters and a son.
Correct.
So now here's the thing. Even though I'm divorced, single father, and I father from afar, and as I come back and forth, the mentality to teaching your children that financial independence.
Correct.
Is that because, and I kind of want to go into this part of my show here. You've been working with kids for quite some time. You're working with, in development. Kind of explain that development stage for a young teen somewhere between the age of 15 to 18 that you have dealt with in the past and what you're doing now.
The development with them, you got to remember, economics for the most part is rooted in certain societies and certain cultures. So there's an economic literacy base in the Jewish culture. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's disingenuous for anybody to compare Black people to anybody else in this country, because we came here under totally different circumstances. Everybody came here by free will. We came here as the commodity. You understand?
Oh, I get it. I get it. I
So
get it.
if you were the commodity, or if you was the product, you understand? Then it's going to be a while for the product to realize, number one, it's not the product anymore, and then understand, how do I go from product to productivity?
Right.
You understand? From being the product to being productive. And so I'm not mad. I'm like, no, our histories are different. So I think it's disingenuous for you to compare how you came here from how I came here. We get our time to catch up. As a matter of fact, I think we did damn good. It's a miracle how we doing that we still exist in here. The fact that you would want to compare yourself to me. You understand?
Right.
So then that makes me say, okay, what do you know about me that I don't know about myself that you can compare yourself to me? How do 100 compare itself to 0? Right. And then what makes 100 compare itself to 0? True. And so that's the thing we have to learn. There's some instinctive things in us that we have to learn that can allow us to build a new nation if we effectively and efficiently learn it together. And that's going to start with a simple thing like unity. And unity is going to understand, bring us into the economy that we really so desire to be in.
You familiar with Dorn Rowe? Recently just passed. We called him the governor.
Right.
You familiar with Dorn Rowe? Okay. He recently just passed cancer recently in the last couple of weeks.
Correct.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, I know it very well. I had mixed emotions about that.
Well, and again, I could go to each corner of Miami and hear the same thing you just said.
Right.
Mixed emotions. Dorn Rowe actually was one of the first people that I met when I was in South Florida. And, he used to call me country. Of course, I was the only brother walking around with cowboy boots at the time.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Okay,
but he said something to me, during one of his campaigns. He says, I know you don't know me the way you would like to know me. He says, but in order to vote for me, you're going to have to ride my train. And therefore, I said to him, I said, well, I don't ride anyone's train until you give me a reason to get on the train. And I said, so at the end of the day, you have a lot of distinguished men in that area who have battled the battle line. They have really went to war for what's right, what's not right in the community. I heard about them then, and I've shake hands with them then. And Dorn Rowe was one of them. God rest his soul. As men, are we in a recession when it comes to what we're doing in the community right now? Because don't hear the names of a strong man anymore in the communities as much as we used to. And I understand the rise of the women. Black women are really doing their thing.
Yeah.
But are we in a recession just for the active men in our communities?
I would say we're more in an evolution, not a recession, but it's an evolution that's going on. Let me tell you, when you're talking about a Dorn Rowe and all the, when you talk about Black leadership and particularly Black male leadership,
right?
There's a difference between being an ethical champion, right, and an equitable champion. I think what we do, we have too many ethical champions and not a lot of equitable champions. And as a result of that, we get the crappy end of the sticks. This is why your communities still look the same. Because we had a lot of ethical champions, which means everybody's saying and want to do the right thing. So everybody has good behavior skills and bad business skills. And that's what just about every Black community suffer from around this country. Because as long as you can get me to behavior right, people will turn their back on you when you behave right. People will tend to trust you when you behave right. As a matter of fact, when you challenge people, they'll think you're behaving wrong. You understand?
Well, you're exactly right. But that's the thing. Are we fearful of, the book of Proverbs speak on wisdom, knowledge, and understanding? Are we fearful of that wisdom? Because we all need it, number one.
Right.
Are we fearful of getting it or maintaining it just enough so that when we do gain the knowledge, know, now to sit down like you and I sitting down right now, come to an understanding. Are we fearful of someone saying something indifferent, or is it just because, hey, man, you know, this is my time. You know, it's about me. You know what I'm saying? It's about me. It ain't about you. You know, because
Right.
I look at this whole thing like too much jealousy going around.
Correct.
Let's be real. Just jealousy. There's that person's Jay, this person's Jay, this person. You're all trying to reach the same thing.
Right.
Why not share? You know, why are we still in this mentality?
Well, you know what? When I meet a man, and this was the methodology or the method to my madness with Chief Jimmy Brown on his show.
Okay.
I was in the habit, and me and my wife always talk about this. I was in the habit. I would challenge you first if you didn't know me. So when I meet you, chance it's a 50-50 chance you will not like me before you like me. Right? Because you're gonna get the challenge or the criticism first. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna challenge you on who you are and particularly what you say. Mm-hmm. I don't need you. I'm not as a man. I can't be married to your personality. Right. I have to marry your purpose. So if you can survive,
I like that.
And it's true. If you can survive my critique or whatever challenge that I bring your way, then we're gonna be some great men together, not by myself. Right. And that's it. So it was a methodology that has allowed me to foster friendships for like 20 plus years where guys were like, I know him. Nah, you ain't talking about him. I have guys come sideways, and I had other guys that like capture, you know, like really, what they call it in football when you crack back.
Crack back.
Crack back.
Hey, listen. I used to be that brother that had this call it crack out, because if I didn't, that linebacker was gonna get me later. So trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So when you have that kind of character, and when men are married to each other causes, you understand, anything that comes against that cause will get cracked back. Right. And that's how we have to function together as black men.
You know, you said something about the purpose, right. You know, the whole purpose. You know, personality over purpose. It draws a different question now, but at the end of the day, are we channeling our purpose, or are we just giving our purpose?
I think we're giving our purpose, and we're giving our purpose to personalities. Let me give you a good example of that. This is it's going to be a very challenging example, but let me give you an example. Barack Obama presidency, right? And which is just there's a consensus among black people that he have done nothing for black people in his presidency. Right. So, and I'm like, I would echo that. So when you say, okay, why did that happen? It's because we brought more into his personality than the purpose of the position in which he existed for. And so I think Byron Allen said it best. He said the reason that Barack Obama didn't do anything for black people is because we didn't ask. And we didn't have an ask. We had more celebration going on that this is the black president and that was it. And we didn't understand that was a position of purpose to serve our progress. And so I think we've learned that lesson, and we still love him, and it's not his fault. Right. Again, I went to, you know how many State of the Union black conferences I went to before this man became president, because even when I was at the State of the Union black conferences, we didn't even think that was possible. At those conferences, all of a sudden it happened, and then guess what? Everybody at those conferences started fighting each other before this man got in office. It was two sides. Exactly. I can never forget that. It was two sides, two lines drawn.
Now, see, I don't know if you went. I went. But do you remember? But listen, if you remember the Million Man, the Million Man, right? Million Man March. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so I was there. Okay, and I was telling a buddy of mine. I said, listen, I said, to see an island of us, correct, from all different backgrounds, man, that was the celebration. Correct. To get there and be like, yes, brother here, light skin, dark skin, brown, everything. Mm-hmm. If you had dreads, if you bald headed, if you was alpha, if you was sigma, if you was this or that, if you was poor, if you was rich, you got there. And I went on a bus, man. I'll never forget. I had a little over $100 in my pocket. Didn't even know where we was gonna sleep, but I still went.
Right.
As my grandmother would say, she said that was your civil rights moment.
Yeah.
God rest her soul.
Correct.
And but you said something about the celebration, because when Barack became president, and I remember him coming to my church at 93rd Street Community Baptist Church, coming in, and he was giving his, and don't get me wrong, had us all on our feet.
Yeah.
Had us all ready to go and just. And I voted. I said, I'm gonna vote for this brother. I'm gonna vote for him. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do everything. But what bothered me the most through this whole presidency is, yes, he made some changes. He made some very important changes.
Correct.
I would never take that away from him. Never take that away from him. But when it came down to unifying us to do the actual work, it bothered me a little bit, because now he put people in place so that they can get out there in the community and connect with us, so that we can go back and do what we needed to do.
Right.
But then that same fight, that same drive that we had to get out to the polls wasn't there when it came down to sit down and talk about this is what we need to get done. So I totally agree with you on the fact that, did he do something for us? Obviously, there was a misconnection.
Yeah.
There had to be a misconnection, because had we had that connection, we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing now in Trump. Not to say Barack could have still been president, but I think we could have put someone else in office that could have carried that torch and maybe activated some of those things that we had got started, if that makes any sense.
Oh, no, that's true. But you got to understand, even Trump has his purpose. And I'm not talking about the purpose from himself. I'm talking about the very purpose and the reason God put him there. You know why God put him there? To show Barack Obama what he should have did. And that's it. Let me be clear with it. I'm like, listen, if this man
explain that a little bit, because I've met Black people who said the same thing.
Yeah. What happened is, I'm like, if this man can have what they call a unrighteous, or stand on his unrighteous indignation, you understand, his unrighteous principles, as as who he is, then Barack should have did the same thing. And if you ask me, if I'm just going to be honest with you, if you ask me, I think Barack Obama leadership was a little lukewarm, and I love him. I think he behaved very well. But good behavior does not equate to good business for Black people, and that's what we need to say.
Well, the business, and that's you're exactly right, because again, someone said, "Well, how did Trump get out of 7 different bankruptcies?" I said, because he's a businessman.
Right.
He's a businessman.
Correct.
He's a businessman. He's running this country like a business.
Right.
He can, that show he had about firing people left and right or whatever. That's basically what he's doing here in the White House.
Correct.
If you are not part of his vision, or you're not trying to make him money, keeping his name out of this person's tongue, that person's tongue, or whatever the case may be, you fired. You out.
Exactly.
You're not on the same agenda, you out. Now, do I agree with all that sometimes? No. I don't agree with it all the time. I don't. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And then I ask myself, if I was running my business and I had all these people working for me, would I do the same thing, or would I not do the same? It almost makes you say, okay, I get what you're doing, Trump, but the things you say,
right,
2 different things. So at the end of the day, does that make me a bad man? No, it don't make me a bad man. It just shows that either, okay, I'm an authoritarian figure, or I'm not. Right. So now we move into this state. We're coming out of normalcy. We're going out of one normalcy and going to a new normalcy. And the tag of my question is how is that changing us as Black men? Because I could sit up here and take the recent situation with Ahmaud Arbery, the young man that we were speaking about. He's jogging in his neighborhood. He's in a middle-class neighborhood jogging, and 2 white men following, and they gun him down.
Correct.
And now the aftermath, 2 months after the fact, is it was a hush-hush thing until this video came out.
Right. And God just had that person to pull up. I don't know who that was pulled up with that video, but they're
saying there's a third person that was involved that was trying to film it and they basically filming it. And I guess after the fact, they realized, you know what, this wasn't right.
Right.
And so
Okay.
their conscience
Exactly.
told them to send that video in anonymously. But at the end of the day, if I'm looking at that, I'm a black man. I don't care where I am in the country. I look at that. Should I be scared to go and drive, or just get some exercise? Should I be now scared of this radical whiteness, as I would call it, that could be around me? And even if it's not white, if it's not white or whomever it is, it's somebody that definitely don't want us out, want us to be alive and well.
Well, when have they ever want us to be alive and well?
No, that's true. And but then again, I'm not going to stimulate and say it's all of them.
No, I would never say that.
There's a particular group of them.
Well,
but at the end of the day, I know where I live right now. I am definitely not the majority. I'm definitely the minority. Okay,
exactly.
So in those communities where I am the minority, I'm like, wait a minute. I used to be able to run outside and jog, ride my bike if I wanted to, but now should I not do that based upon situations like this? Are we going back into a different type of lynching situation?
I won't say that, because this is what we're supposed to have been doing as black men. And this is, I wholeheartedly, this is what I prepared myself to do. We don't raise our black boys to be scared. We raise them to be prepared.
Right.
In every aspect, not scared, prepared. And you got to know, I think Martin Luther King said it best, and this is a reverend. He said, if a man can't find something to die for, he's not fit to live. That's a peaceful man talking.
Right.
You understand? And so once you engrave that, this is why a lot of black men need to go to church. I'm not going to be honest with you. Get you a strong business leader, like you got you a strong business partner. You understand? And when you get a strong wife, all of your investments and your relationships should line up equally. Everything you invest in, every relationship you invest in should be strong in order not to make you just a strong man, but so you can have a strong community, a strong society, and then a strong nation. The thing about it is, we're coachable on one end, right? But not coachable on the other. Everybody want to be coachable when it comes to building their finances, but nobody wants to be coachable when it comes to building their faith. Or let me just put it in simple terms. Everybody want to be coachable when it comes to building their business.
Right.
But nobody want to be coachable when it comes to building their beliefs.
Right.
And I'm like, listen,
bro, that's a sermon right there.
But it is what it is. So your beliefs, I'm like, listen, your business is nothing without your beliefs. You're just gonna have a very scary business. And you got to understand that the civil rights movement thrived off of business. Was a great entity of the civil rights movement. As a matter of fact, you couldn't have no civil rights movement without it. They broke the Montgomery. As a matter of fact, it was business dealings that broke the Montgomery transit system. So what are we talking about? I'm like, listen, we done all this stuff before. So why you can't convey and explain the power we do have versus the power we don't?
Well, here's the thing. Here's one way of looking at it. Is there's a different type of fear that's amongst us now than it was years ago. As a buddy of mine would say says now, he says, my fear is that I'm not the first one to pull out my gun. Now, that's his fear.
Right.
Because everybody has them.
Correct.
I mean, it's to the point you don't know who's packing and who ain't packing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, before, it was more or less the fear of do you want me integrating your community or you don't? Because if I do integrate your community, I'm coming there to actually do better. I'm coming from something worse, but I'm coming there to do something better. We moved into a lot of as we would say, we moved into a lot of middle class communities, and my knowledge, majority of us did better. We made the community better. The news and media and all these other outlets look at, well, we had a fluctuation of African Americans and Hispanics that come in this community. Well, obviously the economic threshold went down. Well, why is that? They came from something that you weren't used to, or you weren't part of the equation, put them in the equation.
Correct.
For what? Are we, so now this normalcy that we're going into, this new normalcy, does that place us in a position of authority
Agree.
where we can make the changes or make the decisions and actually stick by those decisions.
And that's the question again, is a simple question. Do you believe it? Because that's what it's going to come down to. If you don't believe it, your belief is going to drive your narrative, and your narrative is going to drive your vision. That's it. So it starts with your belief. Your narrative, after your belief, it comes out your mouth, and whatever comes out your mouth is going to paint a picture of what your vision look like.
Right.
So I don't believe. I don't believe in talking from a deficit. Every time I talk to you, you're gonna leave. We're gonna leave that conversation, and both of us gonna have some type of assets. If it ain't nothing but theological,
right,
or philosophical, or inspirational, but you should never, ever, when it comes to projecting, project at a deficit. You should always project at an asset, and then you have to know what you know. Don't depend on what other people know. Know what you know and fight with what you know. That's why you know what you know. And most people, they're ashamed half of the time what they know. And then we let titles scare us. I'm like, no, God equipped you with a task. Forget his title. Make him, let me tell you something. If you talk to me, you better know. If your title real, you're going to know when we talk. Because you gotta have more than that title with me. You understand? Not that I don't understand. I'm like, listen, that title was an accomplishment for you. You understand? Right. But when we come together, that's an accomplishment for us. And I got just as much buy-in as you do. And until we start coming to the tables understanding that I have just as much as buy-in as you do, you understand? I'm not gonna never make you greater than me. We're gonna be great together, but you never gonna be greater than you. If we're not great together, or nothing. You understand? And that's how we got to live. That's what I loved about Tupac. I understood him from day one. That's why we born the same year. I know that spirit very well.
And that if you know a lot of people, it's funny you say Tupac, but a lot of people would say that Tupac was really, he was our generation.
Mm-hmm.
He was our Malcolm X. He was our Martin Luther King, all rolled up into one.
Correct.
And from a standpoint of the hip hop community, that's another question within itself. It seems like if you're not a rapper, if you're not a quote unquote, let's say live TV or what they say, what do you call those personalities they call them now? The Real Housewives and all that.
Uh-huh.
So if you're not part of that echelon, then in the Black community, are you important? You know, my daughter and I had a great conversation the other day, and I said, you know, what have you read or whom have you read about that is really changing the narrative for our Black communities at your age? You're part of that. You're 17. Who's out there who is actually changing the narrative that is giving you hope and making you want to do better? And you know, it's funny, she couldn't tell me. She could tell me about Nicki Minaj. She could tell me about Cardi B. She could tell me about you know, a few other real live TV stars, whatever you want to call them. And she could tell me about all that, the entertainment and even the rappers and everybody else, but she couldn't tell me about that one person who was changing the zip code, was changing what that zip code meant. If 33020, whatever the case may be, was one way, and we know that if you go over there, you in a place of crime, and compared to 24 and all this other stuff, you couldn't tell me the difference. But I knew for me growing up, that was important. That was important for me to know, okay, if I go to the east side of town, I'm safe. If I go to the north side of town, I'm not. You understand what I'm saying? I needed to also know why that was, and I wanted to also know who was helping me change those situations. So now, you know, when we teach these kids today, are we teaching them about change agents? Are we getting them in touch with them? Because I don't see it.
Well, no, I think again, remember I told you about the narrative is very important, because guess what? Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, and I think we allow, and I sometimes we do this to ourselves, we allow people to hijack their narratives because they didn't get to where they are without some type of sacrifice and hard work. And who am I to disregard their sacrifice and hard work to get them where they are and uplift somebody else's because they went through a channel that I thought they should have went through? I'm like, no, success is success. And
Right.
so my job, I think, and this is what I love about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. They balanced narratives so well. As a matter of fact, you could never tell there was real contention between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. You understand? Well, at least not on Martin Luther King end. You understand? Because their purpose was so connected. They're like, listen, I'm not going to let your personality override our purpose that we head in the same direction. Right. So we got to see Cardi B them like the same thing, and Lil Wayne them, they have the same purpose because they need somebody to build their narrative. And the question is, who's building their narrative? Why are we even going to school if we're not building their narrative? I'm like, listen, I can get in where you fit in. Somebody got to build a narrative, and it's not going to be a white person. Right. You understand? Right. And that's unfortunate because we are too many times. I'm not saying that white people can't build your narratives because I think they do some great documentary. They did a great documentary, Tupac. And I mean, that was a great documentary. I mean, she just went in and built your narrative, but really somebody black should have done that. You understand? Yes. Matter of fact, the hip hop narrative in general. Why did white people even have to have control of that industry? And we know the story behind it, the backstory behind that.
That's a good point. That's a good point you make because we grew up on the beginning of rap, and understanding Houdini and LL Cool J and how they actually came together, Russell Simmons and all that. There was I was listening to Rock the Bells, Sirius XM station.
I got a program on mine too.
Hey, bro, I listen to it all the time because it reminds me of what the messages we were saying at that time. Because I remember I was young. I was trying to do a little bit of everything from breakdancing to DJing to all the above. But at the same time, there's a documentary that's going to be out on Apple TV about the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that.
Man, let me tell you something. I did a little bit more research on that. And, for a lot of people that didn't understand their strive to get where they are, there's some things that they talk about. They said, not being the culture. They was part of the culture. They weren't part of the movement. And what that meant was that the Black movement was ongoing. It was still something that had nothing to do with them, but they picked up the culture and they said, we have to show people that we understand it. And at the same time, we respect it.
Exactly.
And I listened to more and more of their music and I said, nah, that's what they were saying. Oh, wait a minute. I get it now. Right. Oh, I love the beat. Let's be real. Yeah. The beat that they made was amazing. I get what they were saying now. So are we, excuse me, are we just in that culture, because we talk about Cardi B, we talk about Nicki Minaj, we talk about Lil Wayne's. I had my son do this one time. I said, he said, man, Lil Wayne is this, and that. I said, do me a favor and find out about Lil Wayne's education before you tell me about his music. Give him a week. He's 10 years old, man. He was more in the games than anything. But he ended up telling me, came back and he told me about his education. And I said, this is what our kids really need to know. This guy went to school, went to college, went back, got his master's degree while he was in the middle, while we were sitting there thinking he was just a thug.
Right.
Was getting his education.
Correct.
Very smart man.
Right.
At the end of the day, why do we get in these positions and we don't talk about that? Why don't we talk about that success? Is it not good enough for us? I mean, you tell me.
I think I heard a story one time my pastor spoke about, which was about Martin Luther King. A reporter asked Martin Luther King, I think it was about Jackie Robinson.
Right.
And something about Jackie Robinson, which I can never, so if it either was Jackie Robinson or somebody before him who was illiterate. So they were speaking to Martin Luther King about, let's just say for the sake of argument, Jackie Robinson's literacy.
Right.
And remember I said that narrative. And Martin Luther King was always prepared. And that's what I'm getting at. We have to always be prepared to say what Martin Luther King said. He said, Jackie Robinson don't get paid to read books. He get paid to hit balls.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
Back to what I originally told you, purpose. So when we talking about purpose, I gotta be ready to defend your purpose. That's why it's important for me to know it.
Right.
Like you got to be ready to defend mine. But no one should ever make you ashamed of your purpose, no more than I'm gonna stand around and let them make me ashamed of mine. And so we got to know that purpose and know that purpose, because to know that purpose is to know your narrative, to know your narrative, to know your vision. Remember, we got somewhere to go. And I can't allow somebody to criticize me and break me down just on criticism alone. You have to do more than that. I
like that. We're going to close here in a few minutes, man. And before we close, I just kind of want to reiterate, we spoke about, this whole show is really about the state of the Black community. And I called it Urban X because I wanted to focus more on what was engaging the community, what was bringing it together, what was separating it, what is actually doing in this COVID scare, some of the successes we're coming out of it, the new normalcy. And the one thing that I get out of this and the takeaway I'm taking from you is purpose is everything.
Correct.
Purpose, belief, of course, is everything. If you don't believe in it, purpose is in vain.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is in vain. You're a godly man, and as well as I. And we talk about building faith and believing in our faith and having faith. At the end of the day, you do a show every Wednesday, I believe. Can you talk a little bit about that show? Because some people in South Florida may not know. They may be still at work and they want to chime in to find out what you're actually talking about. But you're on a local station with WMBM and with some federal elders. Am I correct? Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, we have a show. As a matter of fact, I co-host, so I just come in and I do some commentary. But it's a show on WMBM every Wednesday. No, every first, second, and third Wednesday on WMBM 1490. The radio station that put Jesus Christ first.
Hey, I ain't got no problem with it, man.
Exactly. So it's a Let's Talk Church radio show.
Right.
Now, what we're trying to do is because let me tell you something, and the Bible actually speaks to this too. The greatest movements is not started by the leaders. It's started by the congregants and the followers. And that's in the Bible. You got two sets of scriptures.
Yes, it is.
One old, one new, two great movements in one old Testament, New Testament that lines up exactly. And when I read, I'm like, what these things have in common? I'm like, well, I'll be damned. The people started these movements.
Yeah.
And the leadership. So sometimes that's what I love about the reciprocity of relationships or movements. Sometimes the followers have to start the movement before the leader get on board, i.e. Martin Luther King. That movement was already started way before Martin Luther King got on board.
Well, it's about the knowledge. It's about, we go to church to hear a word.
Correct.
As one of my ex-pastor used to say is, when you come to church, you really need to come to actually concur the word. You need to concur the word that's coming out of my mouth, because you have every right to take that word and use it the same way that I'm using. The only thing is, as he chose me to do it here, you chose to listen to me. So you need to put your checks and balances on the word that's coming out of my mouth, because if it's not, I need you to check me. Unlike how you said, no, I'm being real. Yeah, because if it's not right, why would I have this person in front of me every Wednesdays and Sundays and whatever days during the week, giving me their 2 cents about what the word says, when I have it right in front of me? If I have it right in front of me, we should be able to come together, come to some agreement that this is what is being said. This is the example that needs to be displayed. And not only that, I should be able to take this example, and in this side of the ministry, I should be able to just be as strong as you are in your part of the ministry. Because
you know what?
Go ahead.
What you're talking about and that's people within the fellowship. But what this particular show that we do, it speaks about people outside the fellowship.
Okay.
So we're not giving the comprehension on us with people that's in the spirituality. We talk more about taking the spirituality and turn it into a practicality. Now, how do you
outside of the walls? Outside of the walls.
So now, you ready? And you're gonna love this. How do you take scripture and make a science out of it? That's what we talk about. Scripture always been a science, And so now here I am. I can go into the university and challenge anybody about the biblical science and spiritual scriptural sciences, and the very reason why we go to church, because every ology is built on one thing. And you know what that is?
What's that?
Your ability to buy into it with a belief. You know what scientific experiment proved that? The placebo experiment. They said that, again, no ology works without the buy-in or the belief of that person. None of it. No medication, none of it. No therapy. So if every therapy and every ology is built on a person's belief, and the church maintenances and matriculates in a person's and their congregational belief, you understand? Then a person that went to church will probably have a better outcome of surviving coronavirus than a person that don't. Do you know why? Because of the belief system. So they already, and a scientific word for belief and what we matriculate in the church when it comes to faith-based, discipline. That's the scientific outcome. So this is why you go, and this is the sad part about it. Remember I told you about narrative. This is the saddest part about it. The church have the best outcomes when it comes to mental health practices. The best. I ain't even talking, I'm talking about hands down, the best outcomes. So when we have recovered crackheads in the church, I'm talking about, let me give you some real things.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Recovered murderers, re-entry people who went out to prison and became a part of a church. And guess what? None of those successes are being recorded. But I'm like, you know what? They don't have to be recorded because you couldn't put nothing up against it anyway.
Right.
And we're talking factual. So when I got people who've been off of crack for 20 years that I can put my hand on right away, I got like 10 people on my network who was legitimate homeless crackheads and found Christ. And guess what? Got a complete holistic change when none of the recovery and treatment that they had could have, that they used to pay for. Came to Christ, came to church, and got it for free. Practiced it long enough, and guess what? When this discipleship took place, because again, discipleship ain't nothing but discipline. That's what we apply discipline in every aspect of our life. We apply discipline with money. We apply discipline when it comes to our health. We apply discipline when it comes to our belonging. So I don't understand why church have a hard time. I'm like, you are the very foundation, you understand, of civilization, but you can't scientifically explain it. And that's what we hope to explain. That ain't what we hope to explain. That's what we're gonna explain.
Okay. Well, people, you've heard, you've listened for the last hour from those who have joined us and those who are going to continuously join us by watching us at a later date, later time. If you're watching us on Facebook Live right now, thank you for joining us tonight. This is Lionel Lightbourne, man. He's a national activist, man. The brother is a youth development specialist, and better known, if anything, he's my friend. You know, someone that I can respect. I totally love to listen to his perspective because his perspectives make sense. And I have to be honest, as a minister myself, there's some things that you said that put some checks and balances in my heart that made me say, okay, I think I might want to look at something a little differently next time I read that piece of the word or something to that level. Because now I think where we are as men, and we talked about this earlier, as men, I asked the question for those who were listening, I asked the question, are we in a position where we are resetting? I think that was the word I used. Are we in a recession? That's what it was. Yeah. Are we in a recession? And you said, if anything, we're in an evolution. Yeah. And so we're evolving. We're evolving. And so being a part of that evolvement, for those who are listening to this, it's going to incorporate a team effort. It's going to incorporate inclusion of coming together, and can we work in a unity situation? Basically work in a unison situation. So whether you are a regular person that goes to work every day, you have no title other than just being a man of God, or someone who just a father, or maybe you're a politician, it doesn't matter your title, you have a purpose. And so with that being said, is there any last words, Lionel, that you would like to say to our audience, those that are going to be seeing this on here? And then of course my YouTube channel is actually being built as we speak. Okay. And also my website. So this will be on our website at a later date to be exploited as well. So is there anything you would like to say?
Well, and people throw this word around loosely. I mean, I told my wife this, I love her, and I told her this. I told her, I said, listen, I trust nobody, but I can try everybody. So I would tell you, trust nobody, but try everybody. And that's one thing. The second thing is, and when we talk about on a more national or global level, I'm like, listen, when you can't trust a nation under God, trust the God over the nation. And this is why it's very important. I'm like, listen, if you didn't have a relationship, get one. Because I know you can hear God. You know why? Because if I ask the average individual, you ever had something say to you, or something told me to do this, or something told me not to do it? Oh yeah, I experienced that. Okay, then you heard him. Yeah. I don't try to make God superficial. I'm like, listen, God been talking to you since he created you. Why would he abandon something he created?
Well, you know, it's funny. My ex-wife used to say to me all the time, and she say, well, I wouldn't say all the time, but she said, she made it very clear to me. She says, God is your conscience. Just remember that. And you got common sense, right? And I said, yeah. She said, he's that too. So man, I appreciate you, man. It's just fun because I'm in the process of making it back to South Florida. And of course, you know, as I was telling my co-host from the PM show, I'm coming back with a vengeance, but in a manner of a way to say that I'm coming back with different lenses. I'm looking at things totally different than the way I did when I was there before. I have more opportunity to see things, obviously, from your point of view. It's a view that I couldn't understand beforehand because I wasn't from there. And as anyone would know, if you move to South Florida, it's a different world.
Yeah, it's a
different world. And so, but I enjoy it because of the fact that it's challenging, but it also allows me to take my similarities as with my differences and be able to come to a nice understanding of this is what I want. And for my home and my people down there, hey guys, listen, you're going to be hearing more and more conversations like this in the near future. Please join us again every Wednesday night. We might be considering a different night, obviously, but every Wednesday night at the moment, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Central. Join us with Live with Brother Mays. Obviously, you just heard my brother from another, Lionel Lightbourne. My brother, thank you again.
Always.
Peace, love to the family.
Much
and
love
everything.
To you as well.
Yes, man, I appreciate you. And we'll do this again another time. I got to have you at the round table, man. We're going to do this with some other men. All right?
Oh, absolutely.
God bless, and I'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Blessings, my bro.
All right.